and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Dollar Tree DIY for you guys using their pumpkin wreath form. So if you're interested, go ahead and stick around for this video. The supplies you're going to need are shown right here. You're going to need 2 of these wreath forms that I got from the Dollar Tree. Now you can get away with just 1 of them, but I'll talk about that more as we go. You're going to need some twine, or you could use some zip ties. You also will need a pair of scissors, and these are my scissors from American Crafts. They're the best scissors ever. And then you're only going to end up needing 1 of these rolls of the mesh, and I have it in the orange that has kind of that metallic look to it as well. You're also going to need to pick up some of these bouquets of the mums from Dollar Tree. I used 10. So I mentioned earlier that you can either use 1 or 2 of these wreath forms. If you want to go for more of a 3D look, then I would use the 2, but if you want to put it like on your door or something like that, then I would probably only use 1 so it can lay flat against your door. But you're just going to start by taking the 2 wreath forms and you're going to attach them to one another and make sure that they're even. Honestly, if I would have thought about it, I would have probably grabbed a package of the zip ties from the Dollar Tree, but I just grabbed this roll of twine instead. It worked just fine. I just think the zip ties would have been faster and they would have been easier to poke through the mesh. You'll see what I'm talking about here coming up. But yeah, you just want to start by connecting the 2 wreath forms. I put quite a bit of ties around this whole thing. I just wanted it to be really sturdy. So it's up to you, however many ties you want to put around it, totally up to you, but I put quite a few, as you can see. At this point, you're going to want to take your mesh and unroll it. I hate the way that the mesh is always like sticking to itself, and so you see I'm going to end up folding it over once before I put the glue onto it, and then I'm going to fold it over onto itself. Now again, honestly, if I was to do this over again, I probably would have just zip tied it to the wire itself, because it just would have been me avoiding hot glue, and it was kind of hard to use the hot glue on the mesh just because there's so many holes. I did get some hot glue on me. I didn't get burnt or anything, but just be really careful if you end up using hot glue. But I do think the zip ties would have been better. I'm just going to start weaving the mesh in and out of the wire. Make sure that you keep the mesh tight at all times because you're going to want it nice and tight for when you start adding your flowers. So you can see every once in a while I kind of pull it and wiggle it. I'm just trying to make sure that it's staying tight. So, and then eventually you're going to kind of anchor it down. Again, you'll see right here, it would have been so much easier to have a zip tie, but I was able to push the twine through with my fingers. I just kind of worked it through, but I would definitely recommend zip ties. But you could see I anchored it there to the wire, and then I kept going around, and eventually I'm going to work my way to the back side as well after I'm done anchoring it to the bottom part. I made sure that I pulled it tight the whole time, and now I'm just going to pull the two together. That part right there totally made me think of the Tim Burton film Nightmare Before Christmas. If you guys have ever seen it, it's where Sally's arm keeps falling off and she uses some thread, and there's a scene that looked just like that where she like threads her arm back on and she pulls the thread tight and her arm pulls up on the rest of her body. Now I'm just working on the stem here. I just took a long piece of twine and I tied it on, but then I made sure that I anchored it with hot glue towards the base of the stem. And you can see I'm just wrapping it around it, but I'm not wrapping it around, like I am wrapping it tight, but it's not close together. It's kind of spaced apart, and the reasoning for that is that whenever I start wrapping it completely around the stem, I want those ridges there to where it will keep the twine from sliding back down. And again, you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. My original plan was to wrap the stem several times in the twine to where the twine got really thick, but after I wrapped it once with the space in between, I thought it looked really cute and rustic, and so I ended up just leaving it like that. So if you want your stem to be thicker, you can wrap the twine around a lot more than I did, but I just wrapped it once and then I finished off the top. Another option for the top would be that when you're wrapping the twine around the wire part, maybe go around the top part really thick, and then you don't have to spend as much time on the top like I do here. But either way, it's no big deal, and both of them I'm sure will look just fine. But yeah, I just ended up wrapping mine once, and I did leave space in between because I really liked the rustic look. I did forget to mention that it doesn't really matter how your mesh looks. It doesn't need to look perfect because it's just going to get covered up by the flowers, but you definitely want it to be tight, but not so worried about the way that it looks necessarily. Next, you're going to want to pull all the flowers off of the stem. You want to leave the little plastic part that's on the flower on because that's where your hot glue is going to go. But again, I used 10 bouquets. If you want to cover both sides of your pumpkin, you're going to need at least 20. As you can see, I started placing my flowers around the outside first, and I filled them in from there, so it's totally up to you how you want to put your flowers on. I did have a couple that were kind of a little bit different styles and a little bit different shade of orange, and so I just kind of placed them randomly, making sure that I didn't put the same flower next to another flower. And if the flowers are like leaning or whatever, just place more hot glue and push them down towards that direction, and it should fix that problem. pumpkin leaves, I just took some of the greenery off of the flower bouquets that were left over, and I picked a few different layers. There was one that had like some red tint to it, so I pulled that one off as well. And I just kind of layered them on top of each other, glued them all together, and then you'll see that here in a second I placed them over by the base of the stem, and they kind of fold in and they actually look pretty good. Okay, so there you have it. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!